Hello, let's talk about number 34. Hudson is already 40 miles away from home on his way back from college, back to college. He is driving 65 miles an hour. Write an equation that models the total distance D traveled after H hours. Okay, so how are we going to find his distance after H hours have gone by? Well, when no hours have gone by, he's 40 miles away. That's where we're starting in this question. It's 40 miles away. So when no time has gone by, now let's say time is getting measured here in hours, and then distance is getting measured here. So the farther you go in time, the more time that goes by, the further away you're going to be. The further away Hudson is going to be. Well, he starts 40 miles away, and that is going to be our y-intercept. So we're going to have a plus 40 over here. We're going to have distance equals, and we start off with 40, we're 40 miles away. So that's our starting point, and that's our y-intercept. Well, your slope is how much you're moving, right? It's how far away you get, meaning how high you are in the graph, for a certain amount of time that goes by, which is rise over run. So our rise over run is 65 miles for every hour that we go over. So our slope is 65. We're going to go 65 miles times the number of hours that we're driving plus the 40 miles away that we already started with. Alright, so now we need to graph this. But before we can really graph it, we need to figure out what numbers to put on our axes here. So we need to label our axes. So the horizontal axis is in terms of hours driving. And so it would make sense to label these each like an hour, because we can drive for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4, 5, and 6 hours. And if we're driving much longer than 6 hours, then we're probably going to need a nap, stop for something to eat, and then our graph's going to change because we're not driving anymore. Alright, now, how should I mark the vertical axis of distance? Well, I know that at 0 hours, I'm 40 miles away. So I know I have to be, my lowest number should include 40. 40 should be in here somewhere. But what's going to be my highest number? And I can find out what my highest number is going to be by plugging in a 6 for H and finding out what my furthest distance is going to be on this graph. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up a calculator, and I'm going to do 65 times 6 and then add 40. So 65 times 6. So in 6 hours, I'm going to drive 390 miles, but I was already 40 miles away, so I'm going to add 40. So my total distance away is 430. So my longest distance on this graph is going to be 430. So 430 needs to be in here. I don't want it to be like 0, 500, 1,000, like that, because then all my distances are going to be clumped in here at the bottom. I want it to be this graph to be as meaningful as possible. So I want to be able to see all my points kind of spread out as much as I can. So if 430 something is my biggest one, how many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I make each one of these 100, then my data gets distributed pretty evenly throughout the graph. So what did we say? My intercept was 40. My y-intercept is 40. So at 0 hours, let's switch colors here. At 0 hours, I'm about 40 miles away from home, which halfway between these two lines is 50, so a little bit less than half would be 40. And that point I can label 0, 40. When 1 hour has gone by, it's going to be 65 times 1 plus 40. And 65 times 1 is 65. Add 40, you get 105. So a little bit more than 100. And then we can label that point 1, 105. Or I can kind of wait, and instead of cramming all my little labels for my points in there, I'll label like maybe every other one. You want to have at least 2 or 3 points labeled every time you make a graph. When I plug in a 2 for h, 65 times 2 is 65 times 2 is 130 plus 40 is 170. So I'm going to have the point 2 comma 170, which is going to be right around here. 2, 170. And now I'll plug in 4 next, and then I'll plug in 6. So 65 times 4 is 260, plus 40 is 300. So we got the point 4, 300. So over 4 hours, up 300 miles. And then we already did 6, right? But I forgot what it was. So I'm going to do it again. 65 times 6 is 390, plus 40 is 430. So over 6 hours, up 430 miles. 6, 430. And now you got a nice line of dots, and you draw a nice straight line through them. And there you go. Bada bing, bada boom.